So Jim, how's that tech doing?
The tactical electromagnetic immediate transporter has seemed to malfunction. I'll have it fixed in no time at all.
They say power has a price, and apparently in this case it means incompetent NPCs. Heyo players! Well, originally I had planned a skit where I was gonna talk in the beach, you know, because we're talking about Red Steel today. The setting is in the Savage Coast, and I thought, you know, beach, the coast. So I think it would have been a nice video, but then I thought, I don't like the beach that much. It's too much sand, sun, and there's people in there.
The Red Steel box set, originally released in October of 1994 by TSR Inc., expands on the Savage Coast module that was released in 1985.
So this game came out way before I started role-playing games. I mean, I was like, what, 4 years old when this game came out? So the way I got it was very interesting. I was going to not a gaming store, more like a war gamers club. Where you have people there playing war games like Warhammer 40k and stuff like that, and they actually have like a very small area with tabletop RPGs with a lot of old books, and I love that place. And a friend of mine, I remember, he bought the Spelljammer campaign setting, the AD&D original Spelljammer, not Spelljammer, Planescape campaign setting, and he also bought there the Ravenloft campaign setting, and I was thinking, you know what, I want one of those old campaign settings because they tend to be really cool. And I saw the Red Steel box, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I've heard of people talking about this, and I've heard of it has a CD inside. So I checked it out, and well, no, sadly it doesn't have the CD that contains some music and an introduction to the campaign setting, which is not that wow, because I've searched it online. It's not that amazing, but the rest of the books were there, almost mint condition, and all 3 maps were there. So I bought it, and the store owner actually gave me a really good price. Really cool people. Can't wait to go back there. Just keep rating every single book they have. So let's talk first about the Lands of the Savage Coast, the first book,
which obviously contains all you need to create a player character in the Savage Coast campaign setting, with all those weird races and all the kits and all the magic things, and the Red Steel itself. The Red Steel setting is a medieval fantasy setting where some non-human races are accepted as readily as humans, and some of these can even be picked by player characters. These are the Arania, which are spider people, but not really. They kind of have like half spider, half human things, and they can turn into spider and hybrids. They're weird. Lupins, who are basically dog humans, canine humanoids. You have the Rakasta, not to be confused with the Rakshasa, which are basically feline people. And then you have the Turtle, who are turtle people. Turtle!
So the Red Steel campaign setting, which is not really a campaign setting in and of itself, it's more like a coast that could be placed into any campaign setting. Like, well, originally it's meant for the Mystara campaign setting, but you can easily put it in the Forgotten Realms campaign setting. Heck, I'm pretty sure you can even wedge it in somewhere in the Eberron campaign setting. And honestly, any campaign setting you can think of, as long as you can find a coast to put it in that's a little bit off to the side from everything else, because everything that happens in the Red Steel campaign setting it's very exclusive to the campaign setting, and we'll be looking at those things soon.
There's a particular area of the Savage Coast I'd like to talk about, and that's the Gulf of Huel. Now, the Gulf of Huel is divided between the city-states, which are normal-ish, well, as normal as you can get for this type of swashbuckling setting. It's medieval type place. And then you have the Savage Baronies, which does have a nice ring to it, right? However, the people that live there call themselves Los Guardianos. What type of name is Los Guardianos? It's not, and that's not even the end of it.
Now, if you excuse me, now this part I actually had to write down a couple of names because it gets ridiculous. Like, honestly, it really does. And I have to bring a cheat sheet because I'm not gonna learn all those names. Sorry, my mind is not that good for that. So first you have the ARMR Barony, which is okay. So you have, you know, like you have the Savage Baronies, and so the Savage Baronies, they're very peculiar because not only are they called Los Guardianos, the people that live there, their cities have peculiar names, and the barons of those baronies have very peculiar names. And listen to this. Okay, so in the Almaron, which honestly I think it would be spelled, pronounced Almarron, barony, whose capital is Ciudad Tejillas. Ciudad Tejillas. The campaign setting actually has Spanish as a language, which is amazing. And his baron is Barón Maximiliano de Almarrón y Escudero. And it's just daunting because it does have a flavor, you know, like you have these swashbuckling adventures, you have the Savage Coast, and you have pirates, and you know, you think pirate corsairs, you think Spaniards, but it's still very, very, like, it really gets you out of it. Well, at least me, it gets me out of it. I'll explain soon. Let me get to another name. Then you have a group of mercenaries that are actually called guerrilleros, which is very funny if you know what a guerrillero is. And a barony ruled by a baroness called Baronesa Esperanza La Ilustre de Soto y Rivera, which she's probably family because her last name is Rivera. Wow. Okay, so the last one I want to talk about from these Los Guardianos baronies is what's this guy's name? Señor Cristóbal el Barbudo Bigotillos y Copetes. That's a really weird name. Okay, so this guy's name, if you translate it literally to English, it's Mr. Cristobal the Bearded, Mustaches, and Copetes. Look, it's not that I'm bashing on the Spaniard names, but you know, I'm a native Spanish speaker, so most of the time I'm always listening to Spanish outside this little capsule I've made for myself, or whenever I'm not with my friends. You know, like with my friends I always speak English. Then, because even to other people who's, at least from where I live, us native Spanish speakers, Mr. Cristobal Barbudo Bigotillos, it's a weird name. Bigotillos, I know Bigotillos is an actual last name. If you look for Bigotillos, you're gonna find people whose last name is Bigotillos. But Bigotillos, in fantasy terms, is the equivalent of a dwarf being called Beard Hammer, or something like that. Because it's not something you would expect to see in real life. So it's not that I'm bashing on the Spaniard names, it's just that to me, they're really out there, because it just sounds weird. And yes, like I said before, you know, corsairs, pirates, you're gonna have a lot of Spaniards and Portugal influences in the setting, which actually the setting does mention that they were influenced by that. Which, it's cool because it also takes you away from the whole medieval, well, English medieval thing. And you do have a couple of other principalities, other kingdoms in the Savage Coast, and a couple of them have very they feel very French. Because you have people with something as their last name and croix, you know, and things like that. But when you think medieval, English medieval, you don't think that the French are so far away, because we've seen this. You know, like in Victorian TV shows and Victorian fantasy movies, we see the English and the French, you know, not that they go hand in hand, because that's not what I'm saying, but that you can think of them in the same setting, but you put a Spaniard there, like, let's think for a minute, Highlander. When you have MacLeod attacking to Ramirez, and MacLeod, you know, he's Scottish, and if you put a Frenchman there, it wouldn't have been such big of a shock. But then you have Ramirez, that he looks Spaniard, and I know he's not Spaniard, I know he's Egyptian, but he sounds Spaniard or something like that. You get what I'm saying. So it's just weird, because you have the Spaniards there. It's just, I don't know, they don't really fit well. Anywho, so last but not least, and certainly most importantly, actually, we have the Kingdom of Herat, which is it's actually not a kingdom, it's more of the magocracy of Herat, which is the home of the Aranea, a race of humanoid arachnids, where 3/4 of the population is a wizard. Well, 3/4 of the population are wizards. But don't tell the players, because that is Game Master only information. I'm not joking. Like, it's right here. Ah, man. So I have the page jotted down. Yep. It's right there.
I mean, seriously, even the book tells you so. Warning, only the DM should read any further in this chapter, because Herath is also the home of a secret, one potentially pivotal to the Red Steel campaign. I miss books like that.
Okay, so that's pretty much the setting in a nutshell. Besides that, you also have Immortals, which is the Mystaron equivalent of gods. See, Immortals are not gods in the deity sense. They are immortal, hence the name, and they are creatures with immense power. However, they tend to meddle more with mortal affairs. So they're not really gods, even though, yeah, they're gods, because they can still grant spells to clerics. And they do have religions based around them, but they're immortals, not gods. So you might be thinking, besides, okay, so we have the setting covered, what is so special about the Savage Coast itself and the Red Steel setting? Why is it called Red Steel? Well, that takes us to a little something called the Red Curse. And the Red Curse is, well, a curse, but it wreaks havoc upon all the land. It's kind of subtle, because anybody that lives in, well, not every single area of the Savage Coast has the curse, but most of it does. And people that are cursed, they get these deformities. They change physically, they change mentally, but they also get these spell-like powers called legacies, which takes us to the second book, the Red Steel campaign book. So one of the first things you're going to see in that book is something called kits. Now, what's a kit? In AD&D, a kit is something you can add to a character that gives it additional abilities or additional bonuses. Think of Pathfinder archetypes, but more restricting. Well, not more restricting, it gives you less, it modifies your class less, and it has more restrictions to add it on the character. Also, you can think of 5th edition archetypes for characters. Although in 5th edition, every class has its own name for archetypes. Honestly, I don't know why 5th edition didn't just call those things kits. But that's for another review. And while most of the kits are warrior focused, because it's a very warrior heavy campaign setting, you do have kits for the other types of classes, and the most important kit is actually the Inheritor. Which the Inheritor is a kit that any class can have, and you join an order of inheritors. Inheritors are people that learn to harness the legacies from the red curse and actually gain more than one legacy. Because if you're cursed, you learn one. But if you're an inheritor, you can learn more than one legacy, granting you additional spell-like abilities. And what's interesting about the inheritors and their orders is that they do have some tenets they have to follow, some rules and regulations and stipulations they have to follow. And there are 4. And these are: 1, they cannot violate the home of another inheritor. So you cannot go uninvited into another inheritor's home, much less damage it. 2nd, if an inheritor wishes to fight another one, they have to challenge the inheritor directly. So you have to issue a challenge that you want to fight it. Now, the challenges tend to be weird because you can determine, I challenge you till the end of our combat, I challenge you till the end of the year, for example, or I challenge you until you die. It's weird because the challenge can take last any number of time determined by the challenger. The book says that they did that to prevent ambushes. But if you, however, if you challenge somebody for a whole year, you can ambush them at any time during that year. You still can't break into their house, but if they're camping outside, for example, you could kill them while they're sleeping, if you already issued the challenge. Now, what's very interesting is, and what's actually really weird, if you're an inheritor and you get challenged, you cannot deny the challenge. If you're challenged, you're challenged, and you will fight that other person. You will fight that other inheritor. There's no saying no. Those are the rules. 3rd one is you must provide aid to any inheritor that asks for aid. Now, it doesn't have to you don't have to aid them exactly the way they want to be aided, but you have to aid them. You have to give them some sort of help if they ask you for help, which could be weird, you know, like trying to word it. You're like, oh, help me fight. Oh, I'm being attacked by bandits. Help me fight them. You give them a sword. Here, that's my help. And then you leave. Because there's nothing concrete. And it's up for interpretation, which can be dangerous if you have dickish players or a-hole game masters. And the last one is, in no circumstances can, in no circumstances can an immortal fight in holy ground. Wait, no, that's a different setting, that's a different thing altogether. No, sorry. Inheritors cannot fight inside of conclaves. Inheritors have conclaves where they meet up. No inheritors can fight inside conclaves, regardless of the circumstance. If you violate any of these 4 tenets, you are an outcast and they will kill you. So follow the tenets. It's only 4, not that hard. Really needed this. Okay, so let's go over to one of the most important parts of the setting, which is the curse itself. Now, if you live in the land of the Savage Coast, if you were born there, at the time that you reach maturity, you will unlock your first legacy, or your only legacy. If you move to the Savage Coast, it takes a while, but it doesn't take that long. And just get afflicted. You notice that your skin starts getting reddish, your hair starts getting reddish, and you start feeling tingling sensations in parts. It comes a time in the life of a young man and a young lady where they start getting these tingling sensations in certain parts of their body, and you might start getting red. You know, might start finding red spots on your body, and well, certain things grow longer. You start growing hair where there used not to be hair before, and you start conjuring balls of fire. That's how the red curse works. You realize these physical changes, then you use your legacy for the first time, and then after that, things start to happen. For example, you what's the word? Your ability scores start depleting themselves, and your ability scores start disappearing. And what the book suggests is that the game master rolls 2 die 4 to determine how much your ability score went down by. When you do learn your first legacy, each legacy is tied to an ability score. That ability score goes down by 1 permanently. Permanent. And every day you start losing ability scores. However, if you have, what's the name of that metal? It's right here. Cinnabril. If you have Cinnabril, you start regaining back your lost ability scores, except for the one that's permanent. Or if you already had Cinnabril, you don't lose the ability scores, except for the permanent one, because that one is a cause for learning the spell-like ability. So this curse itself stems from something called vermeil. Now vermeil is a fine red dust that covers the whole land. And whenever you're in the Savage Coast, you're breathing it. You're breathing this red fine dust in the air. Whenever you're working on metal, the red fine dust falls on the metal and it gives it a red sheen. Now this metal is very, very soft. This red dust is very, very soft. And that is what a lot of people believe is that gives the curse. It's actually very, very complicated and convoluted. It's actually 3 magical effects made into one that creates the curse, that changes people physically, that gives the red glow, and that actually gives the legacy, which is very long and convoluted. And I actually suggest you to find the explanation online, because it is online, because it's different people have 3 different theories and myths to what the red curse actually is, but the red curse is actually a combination of those 3 curses, which have to do with an ancient race of creatures that don't exist anymore because the immortals wiped them down from the face of the world and actually deleted the memory of everybody from those races, deleted the history of those races from the record books. They basically do not exist anymore, and something else about a dragon that spilled his blood on the land. It's weird, but the players don't necessarily need to find this out. So vermeil, you also have Cinnabril that I actually have mentioned before. The Cinnabril, like I said, it holds away the curse, and Cinnabril is actually a very slick and soft feeling metal, which is very brittle, which is really bad for making weapons, but you can make jewelry out of it. And the jewelry actually, if you're cursed, it's consumed by 1 ounce a week. Consumed in the sense of the power of the Cinnabril, because it's not really consumed, it's not wasted away, but it starts losing its shine, it becomes more opaque, and it actually starts weighing less. The more of the curse it actually absorbs, the less it weighs. So a lot of people actually go around hunting for Cinnabril to make sure they have a lot of Cinnabril to sell to people to stay away the curse, the red curse from the other people. Now something very interesting happens when Cinnabril loses all of its glow and all of its curse repelling energies, which takes us to red steel.